All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to your second day of Inspector Boost. We're here today with Chris and Ian, and the name of the session is Your Logo and Branding. You can get an InterNACHI's CE from this session. You just have to load it manually to your dashboard. If you do not know how to do that, please email education@internachi.org and we can guide you through that. We will have a virtual hall with all the InterNACHI staff and other vendors at 11. So make sure to go visit that and make sure to stay at the end of this presentation for a raffle. And that's about it. I'm gonna leave the floor to Chris and Ian.
Welcome, everybody. As I was introduced, Chris Krowiak. I've been doing logos for InterNACHI for quite a while now, and we're going to go through today and talk a little bit about your logo and your brand as a whole, and help give you some tips as to how to think about your brand and let your marketing kind of do more work for you, so you don't have to sweat it as much. And Ian, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Ian. I've been working here for 2 years now. I've done a lot of member marketing stuff. I'm basically the print marketing guy. So all the brochures, business cards, banners, even random Facebook stuff that you guys need. I'm kind of the miscellaneous section guy, but all the stuff that where ink hits paper, you're typically going to deal with me. So yeah, we've been doing this for a number of years, and we feel pretty good about what we do, and we're hoping that what we've learned throughout this can help you guys as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys, so sorry, I forgot to mention something super quick. If anyone has any questions, you can use the chat or the Q&A feature, and I will be reading through those and sending them their way. That's all. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, questions are definitely encouraged. If you even have something that you'd want to show, we encourage that too. I mean, this is definitely going to be helpful for people who are brand new and maybe are starting from scratch, don't even have a business name yet. We'll touch on that briefly. If you do kind of have yourself established, but maybe you think that you can improve upon your marketing or your logo or the quality of your business cards or anything like that, this will be beneficial for you as well. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and additionally, you can email us separately afterwards at any time you want to kind of brainstorm. We're happy to help you with whatever it is that you might need help with. And like Kenia said, we will be taking questions at the end, and also we have our marketing virtual booth right at the end of this session as well. So there's plenty of time for you to think about a question or join in and ask a question for me. Ian, our marketing director, Jessica, will be in there as well. So definitely encourage some engagement, and we can work with you on a more individual basis too. So that we got that out of the way. I have a few slides that I want to go over and start talking about your logo, your branding, and helping you guys understand how you can improve on that or get started and give yourself a way to set yourself apart from your competition. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here and start a little slide show for you. And let's see here. This should be the one. Play from start. Okay. Ian, is this all good? Can you see this?
Yep, looks good.
All right, cool. So yeah, like I said, the main focus here is going to be your logos and your branding and marketing as a whole. So we'll get through going on that. So we'll start with the function of your logo, which is basically an identifier for your company. It's a representation of you and your business, and it's an ID badge basically. And so basically, what that does for you as well is give yourself a way to give a first impression to a potential client who you've never met before. Maybe they stumbled upon your website or saw it on your truck or something like that. So typically it's the first thing that people are going to see about your brand. So it's important to have a really strong logo that can be recognizable and memorable. Your logo is not your brand. It's basically everything about your brand packaged into one little iconic piece to kind of represent everything about your brand, because basically your brand is everything that you do in your business that people can perceive, whether they hear something or see something. So, you know, it's how you present yourself when you show up to an inspection, how your reports are written, how you answer the phone. Every single thing that people can kind of sensory like perceive about you is your brand. So, you know, it also includes values that you can have with your company, and your logo should be the thing that kind of encompasses all of those things and shows it in a visual format. And we think it's insanely important to put a lot of time and effort into your marketing, because we think that it's just as important as knowing the most about home inspections. At the same time, it's just as important to be able to market as a business too. So you could be the most knowledgeable home inspector in the world, but if your phone isn't ringing, it kind of doesn't do you any good. So I'm going to kind of gloss over this a little bit because I imagine that a lot of you guys have business names already. Just a few quick bullet points. You definitely want to make sure that it's not too lengthy. It's easy to pronounce. You can spell it easily. You know, don't do any wacky spellings if you can help it. Stuff like that. Shorten things up. So my last name is Krowiak. That's a little hard to say and memorize or share it to somebody else if you were referring me. So maybe I would consider something like Crow. It's a little bit easier to remember, and then you can add a visual to it, which helps kind of with that staying power. So it's going to be one of the things that I reinforce a lot is being unique and memorable, and using visuals to do that is a big part of helping your brand be more established and memorable. So I would definitely shorten it up, and I would ideally you would avoid something like an acronym because they're typically a little tough to remember. A lot of inspectors really like to use acronyms, and it just can be a little bit more difficult. So if I were to go KHIS, that's a little bit more difficult to remember. There are ways to do it. I just worked with somebody who the acronym was SPI, and we made a little spy image with it, and it worked out pretty nicely. So there's always ways to go about these things that make it work, but it's just a good rule of thumb to think about, is this easy to remember or not? And like I said, visuals are always important. People tend to remember what they see versus what they hear a little bit easier. That's just kind of how our brains are wired. So these are good examples of things that aren't necessarily home inspection related, but the visuals tie right into the company name. So that, again, it's just that staying power that really helps you out. And just another example where there isn't something that exactly equates to a visual. Owls tend to be synonymous with wisdom. Using the color palette to kind of like those soft blues kind of reinforce, like honesty and wisdom and stuff like that. So again, these are things that you can use in your brand that kind of reinforce those values that you have without, needing to spell it out in a more literal sense. So something to keep in mind. And, we encourage everyone to be creative, whether it's your company name or your logo. The whole idea is to stand out. And that's the whole point of your logo. You don't want to have it be perceived as a different type of company, but I'll go over in more detail, you don't necessarily need to show what it is that your company does in your logo. In fact, that's really not the job of a logo at all. So, oh, and by the way, Ian, obviously chime in at any point if you want to, if you have something to say, please chime in, because I'm just kind of
I'm loving what you're saying, man. I'm loving what you're saying, and I'm just nodding.
yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, whether it's your business name, you don't have one, or you're rebranding, or you already have one and you're thinking about ways to make your brand a little bit more distinct and different to kind of set yourself apart from the competition, we encourage everyone to be creative. And I know that isn't always the easiest thing in the world to do, but if you're an InterNACHI member, we can help you with that. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to shoulder all of that work yourself, but it is important to kind of start thinking about things in a little different type of way, because it will help you stand out. A lot of home inspectors have very, very similar types of branding. So I do think it's a interesting point of leverage that you can have that doesn't require a ton of work or resources or effort. Really, it's not paying a whole lot of money to just set yourself apart right off the bat. So those are just some suggestions from us. if you are getting a new name, just Google, how to register within your state. And ideally you want to have a nice short domain name for a website. And honestly, we're not going to talk about websites much, but we really encourage everybody to get online and have some sort of online presence. So definitely put the time in for that. If nothing else, get online.
Yeah, that's a big thing for sure, especially because a lot of people, I mean, even the shortness and conciseness that you can get of your URL or of your email address, that's a huge benefit. Sometimes people will send me email addresses or web URLs that I need to incorporate on their marketing that are so long that I have to actually put them in such a small, like 8-point font. So, it's going to be harder to read when it's on there. And not only is going to be harder for that, then as they're typing it in, then you're looking at it and making sure, some people add LLCs on there or ands or dashes and stuff. And now, you're basically creating a barrier to entry already. There's already a wall between you and the customer that you're trying to get connected with you. So, it's the same thing with like having multiple phone numbers, but not really knowing which phone number you want to put on there, which one's an office, which one's a cell. Sometimes people will ask me to put 2 phone numbers on a vehicle magnet. And you're like, okay, well, if there's 2 phone numbers on the vehicle magnet and the guy's driving by, you only get an average of 2 to 3 seconds for them to drive by. You're saying 2 phone numbers. Which one are you going to call? You're already creating that barrier. And I think that's what Chris is saying that's so important about your logo too, is that it's less like, it's really hard when you're trying to explain this branding, because I mean, Chris and I really love doing this stuff. Like, this is so fascinating to us because it's like psychology, it's mind candy, because you're basically like getting in between that barrier and breaking down as many barriers between you, what you do well, which is you inspect homes well. Some of you have been in construction for 30 years or contractors for decades, and you have all this experience and you're so good at what you do. And like, I don't know how to do that. I'm sitting here like, I live in this house and I couldn't crawl underneath my crawl space and understand what's, going on wrong here. I need to call you. So when I'm hopping on, you have to be thinking of your branding, of your logo, of your marketing as somebody like me who's just sitting on a computer and knows how to make things pretty is now going, okay, I need a home inspector. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to Google it. I'm going to pop on there. So I'm going to first go for an online presence. That's going to be, who's got the best reviews. If this guy has like horrible looking logo or something, like if he can't even put his time into that, his website is under construction, like, okay, not that guy. And he may have been the best home inspector in my area. There's just these little things that you're basically just trying to break down barriers. And it is really big when you're talking about your marketing to be able to explain who you are, your experience, how you present yourself. Are you a professional, very straight edge person? Are you very bubbly? Or do you have, this part of your relationship with yourself that you really enjoy and it kind of comes out? You have to think about that when you're thinking about doing this, because we can make it look that way. But when you're just coming to us and asking, hey, can you give me a logo and I want it to be blue and throw an owl on it or something, it's like, it's hard for us to be like, okay, well, I can make you a blue owl, but what kind of owl do you want? Do you want it to look austere? Do you want it to look, like, how are we trying? And then that carries over into my end too. So it really is just breaking barriers. So sorry for the long spiel.
No, that's perfectly said. It is the reality though. I mean, whether you're new into the inspection industry and young, or you've been around for a long time doing this, the reality is the way that you reach your customers is a bit different in this day and age. And I bought my house a couple of years ago, and what Ian said is exactly what happened to me. There were a few websites that I was looking at, and they were just so outdated that I just assumed that this person hasn't been keeping up to date with like modern practices for home inspections, or maybe they don't have up-to-date equipment that's necessary for radon or something like that. And it really is the psychology of you deciding to trust somebody to come into your home, and this gigantic purchase you just made is protected. And yeah, so you have to convey that to your audience. It's just really important to make sure that you present yourself in a way that people trust you and they want to hire you for. Because yeah, I mean, I know that I make home inspection logos, but I I look, if it's not home inspections, it's for something else. You know, like I'm more inclined to buy something that's more professionally designed, whether it's, you know, like a type of beer, or, you know, like a clothing brand or something like that. You know, that's just how we tend to operate, whether you think about it or not. So if you have the chance to do stuff like this with your business and your marketing, it's really, really, really important. And we'll go into more detail about how, you know, we provide a service for you guys in that way. But wherever you get your stuff designed, it's important to understand how much of an impact that your marketing has. So and simplicity and being memorable is such an important battle to tackle right off the bat. So don't confuse people with a very lengthy name. You know, don't be encumbered by feeling the need to add property inspection services and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which I see all the time in marketing, because you are going to have to share your website domain with somebody at some point. And we'll use the example that of mine, my KHIS, Krowiak Home Inspection Services. Let's just say it's KHIS Property and Home Inspection Services LLC. That is .com. That is too hard to tell somebody, and you know, no one's going to remember that. But you know, if I went with crowinspections.com, that's a little bit more easy to share with somebody, because, you know, even though I just talked about the importance of online marketing and an online presence, there still is word of mouth advertising. So you want to make sure that you're covered on every single basis that you possibly can in terms of being easily remembered. Because I'll recommend the home inspector that I used for my house because he did a good job, but I'm like, oh wait, what was his company name again? I can't remember, because my friend is just buying a house, and now I can't remember the guy who did my home inspection because his company name was too long, and I can't remember what his, and the name was a bit arbitrary. So again, find those points of leverage where you can set yourself apart, and I'm telling you, it goes a really, really, really long way. And so long as you're not, you know, so long as you don't decide to have a dog in your logo, for example, don't make it look like you're a grooming company. And we help with that, but just, you know, as long as you're not doing that, it's okay. You can kind of use whatever you want. Think about like the Michelin logo. What's the Michelin Man? What is that? No one knows, but guess what? It stood the test of time, and everyone knows what it is. So it doesn't need, like, you know, the Michelin logo, the Michelin Man isn't made out of tires. There's no tires in the logo. It's just the Michelin Man.
There's no apples involved with Apple.
Exactly. And I am going to go in a little bit more detail about, you know, not needing your logo. In fact, I discourage your logo to show what your company does. Think about all the most memorable logos that you can. They just don't do that. It's just the reality of it. You get their attention and you retain their attention. And if you have inspections in your name, then they'll know you do inspections. You don't need to have a house or a magnifying glass or stuff like that. And also the reality is so many people have that you're automatically putting yourself in a spot where you're blending in with your competition. And again, the whole point of your brand is to set yourself apart from them. So you know, I was thinking, I'm like, all right, what's another good example of something like this? And I'm like, all right, well, maybe I wanted to go to Brazilian or get Brazilian Steakhouse or something like that. I guarantee you that maybe some do, but no respectable Brazilian Steakhouse logo is an outline of Brazil with a steak in the middle. And it'll be something else. Who knows what it is? And then underneath it'll say Brazilian Steakhouse, and that's how you know that it's a Brazilian Steakhouse, because it draws your attention and then it tells you what it is. But you know, like, nothing I'm saying is meant to poke fun at anybody. I'm not trying to insult anyone either. If these are the things that you're thinking about, it's just from a consumer perspective, you have to assume that not everyone, your clients aren't home inspectors. They're people like Ian and myself and people who work in different industries that don't need to see the house image, you know, like, so just keep that in mind.
I think that's the biggest turn there is switching from wondering who you are and what you can represent, because it is, you know, as we talk about these details and as you're going to be presented, it kind of becomes overwhelming, where you're like, you got to make sure that your URL's right, and you got to make sure this, and you got to make sure that, and there's like all of these tiny little things. So a lot of people get really hyper focused on this and kind of like try to deify what their business is going to be, and how, and like only really think about their business. And so you get a lot of people that, want to have like, okay, I want to make sure that there's a home in it. I want to have a silhouette, and then I'll throw a magnifying glass on that so that so they know I'm inspecting homes. And like, you're thinking about, like once you're at somebody's house and now you're the home guy, and the home guy's got the, the thing on here with the magnifying glass, and that's what you think the representation is. But what you're not realizing, or that if you switch for 1 second, you'll turn around and go, oh, actually, I'm trying to look at my brand from not my point of view, but from the consumer's point of view. What does my brand say about me from a consumer? If you were looking, as he showed earlier, that, a dime a dozen inspector compared to the Shields inspection one, when you see those two logos side by side, if you saw 10 of those logos, which you're very likely to see if you're looking at stock logos, if people are just using stock logos and not caring about their branding, you'll see 10 different ones that will have the same exact look. And then that one guy that's got that really cute dog, or the owl, or, or a wave, or whatever it is, it just looks really nice. And if you were looking at all those at the same time, if somebody dropped 10 brochures on your table and you had to pick, you'd immediately just instinctively, subconsciously grab the one that has the nicer logo. But it's not that it has really the nicer logo that's the big thing. It's just this beautiful thing that you're just like, oh, great, and you can pick it up. And that's also not saying that having a house and having a magnifying glass is terrible by any means.
Right.
And it can work for a lot of people. And, sometimes just your word of mouth is all that matters. Sometimes you're so charismatic that you could literally have a white business card with just your phone number and not even a logo on it, and you could get a bunch of business just because you're so personable and you can network yourself so much. But I mean, you could 10x that if you added the extra, bells and whistles, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it isn't for us sitting here saying that these things won't work. It's just that, you already have a lot on your plate. And if you're able to just establish your brand up front initially and have something that's a little bit more unique, something you're proud of, and get that out there, it just works harder for you. So again, this isn't to disparage anybody who's done that or plans on doing
For
it.
sure.
It's your business. You run it exactly how you want to, and it can work for you. But we're just talking about from a branding standpoint. If you have a house with a magnifying glass, all you're doing is telling people that I am a home inspector. And that's implied, that's already been established, like we know that. That's like, the Washington football team. It's like, yeah, you play football, you're a team, but it's just a way to kind of show more of you and who you are and what your company is about with just a simple image. And that's basically the point that we're trying to get across here. So yeah, again, simplicity is key. Having it be unique and memorable are all just things that are going to make your life a little bit easier when it comes to the marketing side of your company. Because again, I've gone down the road of trying to run my own business. It's a lot. You have to wear a lot of hats. So we are very sensitive to that. And that's why having this service where you can have one section of a big section that's very important to your business be handled that way is great. So we hope that you guys take advantage of that. But yeah, I'm gonna keep going. We kind of touched on a lot of basically what I'm going to go through in a little bit. So maybe we can go a little quicker through and move past the slides. So yeah, all these things are kind of, we're baked into what Ian and I just kind of talked about for a little bit. So, you're going to want your logo to be simple, memorable, timeless, versatile, and appropriate. And I'll kind of go over briefly in a little bit more detail each of those things. So simplicity is honestly, when you're talking about a logo, you want it to be like Ian brought up how little time you have to grab someone's attention. If you have an elaborate looking like picture logo, or there's a lot of different stuff going on, there's a lot of, again, like if there's a huge company name, you don't have that long to have someone remember what it is. So you want it to be simple, like don't go overboard with colors, nice, easy, legible font. Those are important. So like I use like the Nike swoosh in the example up top. That's all it is. It's just a little swoosh, and you can put it on anything that you want to, a pen or a billboard. It works. Kind of belaboring the memorable thing, but it is important. Just do some market research, see what other inspectors are doing, get inspired, but try and do your own thing. Again, I can't stress how important it is to just go off the beaten path a little bit. And I know it's not an easy thing to just be like, oh yeah, I'll just go do that. But there are ways to help. Like we have a questionnaire that I'll go over for a little bit to kind of help you start thinking through stuff. Go online and do some research. I'm actually pretty blown away by the amount of people who fill out our questionnaire, but don't actually provide anything for us. It is our job to make something nice for you, but at the same time, we don't know you personally. So it's hard for us to know exactly what you're just by shooting in the dark. So it is important to take some time and think about what's, maybe what do you value? What's important to you? And how can you put that in a way that can be visually represented? There are wrong answers, but I would love to say that there are no wrong answers. You can go in any direction that you want to with this thing. Like, really can't stress that enough. You don't have to do a house or anything like that. You can do whatever you'd like. So have fun with it. And at the end of the day, it's your business. So you want to have something that you are proud to put on your shirt and go to work for. And, it's something that you've built yourself. So yeah. Timeless. This is kind of like, it's a little bit more tough to explain, but kind of the website example that we gave earlier. I saw an old website. It was probably made 15 years ago. Half of it didn't work. You just want to make sure that you are able to have a logo that kind of keeps up with the times and doesn't make you look like you are out of date, because again, you don't want people to think that you haven't been, keeping up with your education or your practice or the equipment required to do a proper inspection in 2021. So as much as you can, try to keep it timeless, the better you can. So you give the example of Pepsi versus Coke. Coke logo has been the same for forever. So it's also expensive to rebrand and make new marketing material with a new logo, pay for all the different stuff. So it's important to put the time in up front, and you'll get something that you're proud to use, and you won't have to change it in 2 years. So this is basically just saying that you need whether you want to put something on a pen, on a business card, on a vehicle, you want it to be embroidered on a shirt. So again, the simplicity is key. You don't want anything too crazy. So just think about all the applications that you're going to want to put your logo on, and think about if what you're looking for will work on something like that or not. And you always want to make sure that it'll work on anything that you put it on. And this is, again, just the idea that your logo is not intended to show what it is that your company does. So we've kind of gone over that enough to you don't need to have these things in order to make yourself a strong brand. You really don't. And you'll hear it from us throughout if you do place an order with us, you'll see that over and over again, where you just don't have to do something like that. Do something that'll help set yourself apart. And I do have some more slides, but Ian's going to be covering a lot of that sort of stuff. So I'm going to cancel out of this. And what do you think? Should I go through the questionnaire really quickly, or
yeah, if you want to. I mean, because we're going to be transitioning now. Like, all of this had a lot to do with, like the general stuff. We're going to transition in the second part to kind of talk about what we offer with InterNACHI. And so we'll continue going through that route. So yeah, if you wanted to go through the questionnaire, feel free.
Yeah.
Before you do that, guys, let me just ask you a question that popped up here. It says, how difficult and/or smart is to change your logo if you already have one designed and printed on cars? Can you transition to a different design?
Do you want to take it on, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, you always can. So I don't know the degree of how much this person would want changed. We do modernizations, like little like facelifts, I call them, on logos all of the time, because if you've been doing business for a while and you are kind of already have your brand established and you think that it's going pretty well, we can just kind of adjust things, like maybe you have a little bit of a dated font or something, kind of can be cleaned up or something like that. We do that all the time. If you think that you're being held back by your branding, I would say that it is important and it is a good idea to maybe start over and rebrand. It's a big decision, and I'm not saying just do it willy nilly, but I do think that if you are, you're handing someone a business card and you're not really proud to hand off like a nice quality business card with a professional design on it, maybe it is time to think about that. So I would definitely put a lot of thought into it, and do your research and just see if you think that that's the route that you want to take. But if you've been in business for like 15 years and you think things are going all right, but you just kind of you still want to have that recognition that you have in your area, then maybe clean it up a little bit would be my suggestion. Ian, do you have anything to add onto that?
Yeah, I was going to second on that second half of what you were saying too, and expound upon that, where if you already have, like, if you've been in business for a long time, or if you've been in business for a short time and whatever you have is working for you, even if you just popped it off of some, iStock account and it doesn't look like, which you shouldn't do, which we talked about, but whatever it is, if it's working for you, then like, cool. If you're just looking at us like, oh, these guys just want to throw some, if you feel like all it would be doing is throwing some lipstick on there and it's not going to gain you any more of a following after that, gain you any more clients, then that's totally fine. A lot of people too don't want to be a multi-inspector firm. A lot of people just want to stick with themselves. They're cool with that, to try to rebrand their entire brand identity in order of whole bunch of stuff and to go out there when it's only one person that only has so much time in the day, like there's at that, especially if you don't take evening or weekend appointments, it's like, you're limited to that. But if you're trying to grow and you're saying like, I don't think my logo is very good, or I'd like what Chris said, I'd like just to facelift this, make it so that, like, how can I take this concept and translate it into something that is more versatile, that is more iconic, that I can place on everything. And, because sometimes even with your logo, you'd be like, crap, how am I going to put this on a hat or a shirt, or, and it like the versatility issue becomes an issue, even from the shape. Sometimes you have a really long logo and only a horizontal version of it. And so it's like, okay, well, if you have a long logo that's like this, that's great if you were only thinking about business cards. But then if you're trying to translate that to something that's in a vertical format, like a brochure, now your logo has to become that small on the very top of the brochure, and we're trying to get that compromise there. So if you think that you need to, I would say you can also, one thing that's really cool is you can order something as simple as just business cards, or like a business card sticker, something that's like $100, and you gain access to us with that. If you order business cards, the first thing that we'll do is email you and say, do you have an existing logo? Or would you like us to update, or try to update it, or start from scratch and give you something new? You could say, here's my existing logo. Can you try to do something? And like Chris or Levi or other logo designer will redesign that and send it to you. And if you don't like it or want to make changes, we'll continue working with you. You can email us back. We'll change the colors. We'll add this. We'll give you a different version. And then after all that, if you're like, you know what, I don't like any of it, I'm just going to stick with my logo, that's totally fine. We're not judging. We're here to try to help you. So Absolutely. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things to kind of put a bow on that. The answer to this question is, and this isn't meant to be like a sales pitch or anything, but eventually you run out of business cards and you're going to buy more business cards anyways, right? So if you did buy them with us, we can do whatever you want in terms of design. Like we can, some people maybe just over the years they lost, like the vector, like the master file for their logo, so they're using a JPEG that's been compressed and compressed and compressed over the years. And the worst thing you can do is put a pixelated logo on something and put it out to the world to see, because again, people like me, there's no chance I'm hiring someone who's doing it. There's just zero chance. So yeah, like what Ian said about like think about it from the consumer standpoint. You have to have crisp in professional marketing, whether it's the design you've been using for a long time or a new one. We can simplify some stuff for you. You're like, oh well, this, like Ian said, the horizontal format isn't working. Is there a way that you guys can manipulate that? And so if you're just buying business cards anyways, we can adjust any and all of those kind of issues that you ran into over the years. And yeah, so like again, it's not meant to be a pitch, but it's really something that you're going to be spending money on anyways. That can unlock a whole bunch of other services that we can help with. So yeah, not to belabor it, but think about it. Because it is a big decision. And think about it, and if your marketing is currently working for you or not. If that's what you can identify as something that's holding you back, I certainly recommend rebranding yourself 100%. But also make sure you're online. Just make sure you have a website. I mean, I can't. That's just so important. That's how people are finding inspectors, by Googling. Get online. If you aren't, that's the most important thing that we'll say all day today. So yeah. Is there any other questions, Kenya, or?
Yeah, we have a couple. We can take two and then maybe just go to the end. Okay, one of them is, it says, my website is horrible. Do you work with that too?
Oh, we don't really offer a design service. We have resources to help you through that issue. There is Ben Gromiko made a nice video about building a website yourself that it doesn't require any coding or anything like that. It's one of those drag and drop website builders, and that's really important if you have no experience doing any kind of web stuff like that. He makes it really easy to digest, and that is something where if you have a slow day, no inspections or anything like that, you could maybe take the time or get a family member to help you out or something like that, and they can build you a nice easy one. There are also partners that we have discounts for, like Spectora, who those guys are great. They do a really, really good job. There's Home Gauge, and there's some others that you can use as well. So we don't personally do that. I'm always happy if you want to send me a link or send Ian a link or anything, any one of us basically, to your website. We'll definitely give you some critiques, but we don't offer that service.
And we do also have our marketing director has a email that's already set up that has a bunch of different links to some of these resources too. Yep. It might also link to Ben's spiel about that. So I would recommend, if you have any questions about that, you could always email marketing@internachi.org, and you'd be able to get that information in the direct link, since I don't have that off the top of my head right now. But yep. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't do web design right now, but maybe some point in the future.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Another one is, what are your thoughts about using your personal name in your company name?
I can take that. I think that there's the main thing that I always say is that there's going to be a barrier between whether or not you want to continue growing your company, to what extent you want to grow your company, if you do have it as your name. Because at some point, if you build this into a multi-inspector firm, you have a couple of guys underneath you, like at some point you're going to want to retire. You have a couple guys underneath you that want to step up and take on that role. And let's say your name is, Joe, I was going to say Schmo, but I just didn't want to say it. Joe Buck, let's say Joe Buck, the announcer, has a site, and everybody loves Joe. And every time that you do Joe Buck inspection services, somebody else shows up and you're like, I wish it was Joe, because it's a multi-inspector firm, but now, you don't get Joe. So you already feel like you're not getting the main person in this. You're getting the main guy is the owner of it, and the owner is what really matters, you know, like you're just getting the one down from that. And so there's kind of a weirdness there. And if you grow later on, it's going to be a lot harder if you're Joe Buck and you want to retire, and then you're like, yeah, I'll sell my company, give my company to this guy. That guy takes it over. Now Joe doesn't even exist, but the whole company is based off of Joe, like as if, Apple was Steve Jobs the whole time. It'll be a lot harder for him to interact with that. So I would definitely recommend, if you're planning on growing bigger, that you don't necessarily have to use your name for that.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, you probably won't even be, if you did want to sell your business, and this is just for a small percentage of people, right? But if you did have a successful career running Joe Buck Inspections and you're Joe Buck, no one's going to want to buy it because it's personal to you. And so if that's the route that you're planning on going, I agree. It's tougher to do that, and that's another reason why, if you do your business in North Carolina, you probably don't want to have an outline of North Carolina in your logo, because maybe you expand one day and then now you pigeonhole yourself. And the same kind of goes for, like, I always recommend just having inspections and not like home inspections or property, because you're pigeonholing yourself. Always have the ability to be flexible down the road is my advice as well. And I think that you can get away with certain instances of using a name, like not a whole lot of people use like their first name too, but the example that I gave in the slide, which was my last name is Krowiak, that's a little tough to share with people and memorize or even say, really. I shrink it down to Crow. Like I think there's ways where you can, like, I'm proud of my lineage or whatever, and that's what I want to be a part of my logo and my brand. I think that that's okay, but just make sure that it's not too difficult. If you have a tough last name like mine, I wouldn't do it. But if you think it's flexible enough and it rolls off the tongue nicely, and you're going to be proud of it, I wouldn't necessarily say you can't do it, but just keep in mind the things that Ian said about, you're kind of limiting yourself in some capacity. So it's just another thing to kind of think about, all like what your plan is for your business.
For sure.
But overall, keep it simple and easy. Again, as much as you can.
Yeah,
so I guess with that, I'll hop in here. Unless, Kenya, do you have any other questions?
We can take one more. This one says, I'm struggling to come up with a name for my company. How do I begin brainstorming some ideas while Googling logos for inspiration? I saw a lot of roof lines with the business name underneath, which is the first idea I had in mind to portray what I do.
Yeah, for sure.
Just wonder, what can I do better to brainstorm ideas for a more unique name and something that doesn't look like the rest?
Yeah, I mean, I think on even the part of that question, which is why we keep harping on, that it's better for you, or could definitely benefit you, to not have the roof line and magnifying glass, is because of exactly that. Is because when you Google search home inspection, then you see the roof line, you see the magnifying glass, you see that over and over and over and over and over again, and so how are you going to differentiate yourself, even if you have a really cool company name? If you're On Point Inspections, or or something like Profound Inspection, whatever it is, if it's a good name and you're like, yeah, but then you just make it like everybody else's, nobody reads that. You're first gonna, the moment that you see that logo, you first go, oh, okay, oh, cool colors, and then you start reading into it, and then you start getting the brand. There's layers behind the complexity of a logo. If you're looking at just a 2D thing that just says, boom, it's got a roof line, it doesn't have any other, like, it doesn't get your mind turning whatsoever, then now you're immediately stuck. That's a barrier to entry. That's another gate where you're stopping somebody from continuing to go steer where you want them to be steered. And in terms of, I think there's even a random resource that Nick made like 1,000 home inspector names or something that weren't taken or something, and made a whole bulletin list about that. So, that's a whole random thing that you can search. But to be honest, I think that part is really difficult. Those first couple of steps, that the hardest part is first, is the first part, which is the business name. You know, that you showed up here, you know that you want to do this. You know, in terms of branding, I would say that's the hardest part. You have all this experience, you're ready to do it, you're taking your classes, you're getting your certifications, you have all these skills, you're working all this up, but at the same time, you're like, crap, you know, in order to build a brand, in order to get a email account, in order to get a URL, I have to have the name itself. And so you can also do a lot of things like, you know, you can sit down, brainstorm. I've done that a lot where I just sit down with a piece of paper, you know, grab some coffee, whatever. You can go to the shop. Well, I guess not really with coronavirus currently, but whatever gets you in the flow, in that state, in any sort of peaceful spot. You know, I take baths all the time, and that gives me in a good spot. I know some people aren't bath people, but you know, that's if I was going to make an inspection company, maybe it would have a bathtub on there. But just to be able to sit down and kind of explain the general idea, because you do have an idea of what you want this to be, because you know who you are. You know that you're not like every other inspector because you are yourself. You know that you want to go out there in the world and that you portray a certain vibe to people, and the way that you do home inspections, how serious you are about these things, how personable you are. These are all your individual characteristics that make you who you are. And when you're bringing that to your idea of your logo or your business name, then put all that into play. You know, you can form kind of who you are, a little Venn diagram of the things that you stand for, the things that you want your company to stand for. You can even start with like a tagline, or like a, you know, a company slogan where you're like, I want it to be about this, and then, you know, slowly funnel it down to the name that you want to have. And then it's just about checking it, because you'll probably come up with like 12, 15, 20 names that you're like, this name is amazing. And then you hop on and you see that it's already taken, and you see that it's already taken, and you see that it's already, so then you got to keep scratching that off, and then you find that gem. But I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, just a little bit where, you know, you said sit down with some paper. I think that's the best place to start, to be honest. I you know, back when we did this sort of thing in person, you know, those were, I wish I could go back to that. I wish I could talk to you guys face to face and help with this, but since I'm on a screen, I can't. But I can't stress enough about how important it is to just start writing some words down. So what I would usually do when people would come to me after we would do this presentation in person is that question. I'd be like, well, you know, sit down, write down the things that you just like. Write down some values that you think you kind of like would represent you and your business, and then just write down some adjectives. That the first thing that comes to mind, just start writing a list down of words. And there was this one guy who was like, I have no idea. I can't think about this stuff this way. And I'm like, well, what do you like? And you know, after like a little bit of thought, he kept saying some stuff. I'm like, all right, okay. And he's like, I'm really into watches. And he's like, yeah, I have this really, I think the watch was, I don't know anything about watches, so forgive me if this is obvious. I think it was Crown. I think it was a Crown watch. That was the name of the brand. But he like really loved it. He's like, I like fixing watches. Like that was just his thing. And so I'm like, okay, well, Crown's kind of cool. Like Crown, and then it, however it manifested, this was years ago. He landed on Steel Crown. I don't know if the watch was steel. I don't know if that was just one of the words he wrote down. And he's like, Steel Crown's cool. I'm like, that's great. Steel Crown is great. And so we were able to incorporate like a little abstract crown with one of the spokes of the crown being like a minute hand on a clock. Like it just worked out, and he was so happy with it. And those are the kind of aha moments that you get when you just put some time down. And whether you know, like I don't, you know, it's not like we have this bank of awesome business names in our heads. And what Ian said is really important, where it's like, you know who you are and how you would want to be perceived by people. It's just a matter of jotting ideas down and connecting whatever dots make sense to you. And that's the most important part about all this is just thinking about yourself and how you can put yourself out there in a visual way. And I think making a list of as many words as you possibly can, and something will just make sense to you. It doesn't have to be about home inspections. It doesn't have, because you're using a drone doesn't mean that you have to have a drone type of name or a drone image in your name, which again, the timeless thing, you never know what kind of technology is going to be around in 20 years. Drones may be a thing of the past, and then you have a drone logo and everyone's like, well, what is this, the Stone Age? But write stuff down, things that are important to you. That what Ian said is important. Get yourself in a good mindset and just tune everything else out, put on some music and just write words down that you think are important to you, things that you like, lifestyle stuff, places that you like. Just go, just let it flow. And everyone on earth can do that. I promise you. So don't feel beaten up if at first it's a little tough. And if at first you're kind of drawing blanks, because we do that all the time,
Yeah, and that's exactly what it's like.
We hit blocks, but just keep going, keep pushing through it. It's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's those roadblocks, it's those random things. But then you even see, I mean, going back to like the Nike, the swoosh, the action symbol, the going back to Apple, it doesn't have any, the Apple has nothing to do with that, they don't sell apples, but there is that, the tree of knowledge, there is that, the bite out of the apple, the original, there's these stories behind it, the Michelin Man, with tires. You understand that like a guy could have been just looking at a stack of tires in his shop and been like, I'll make that in the logo somehow, make it into a person.
If that was just a like I had eyes and a mouth and arms, like that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And then it turns into something, but it just like the steel crown, it's like the thing already comes out and then it becomes obvious, then after
I
you
was
have
so beaten up. That's what I want to say. The steel crown guy, and I apologize if he doesn't want me talking about this, but
I hope he's here.
He's here. Yeah, he's like I hate my he was, it took him like 3 days, because this was during one of our week-long classes, and he would just come to me and he's like, man, I have nothing. He's like, I can't do this kind of stuff. And I'm like, just trust me. Like, I know it just seems like I'm brushing you off, but keep writing stuff down. And it wasn't until like the third day where he's like, well, I like watches. And then that was the only, like, the thing that he thought would work the least ended up being his best solution. So keep grinding. Again, like I'm actually going to go over our questionnaire really quickly. If that's cool, Ian.
Yeah.
Really quickly. And
take your time, dude.
and I'm going to like kind of show the things that you can think about and write down. And again, I'm blown away by how many inspectors like quite literally don't say anything, and then they expect a good outcome from it. We are the designers, but it is a two-way street. And that's another thing that I want to kind of drive home to you guys, is that it's not something that you shouldn't just want to pass this along to someone else. It really should be about you. And the more thought and energy you put into it, it's always the better outcome. The questionnaires that we get that are loaded with just random thoughts, little scribbles of stuff, these people have shown an interest in the marketing side of their business. And I'm just telling you that those are the best logos that we make, are the people that put the most time in. So just keep that in mind. And that goes the same, even though we don't like offer a company naming service, do the same thing. Just kind of really put the time in, because you don't want to have to change it. You really don't. It's a pain in the butt to go back and change it. So don't just kind of brush over it, and take your time and put yourself into it, put effort into it, and it'll be good. Sorry if I probably just keep ranting. I'm just going to go ahead and go through that questionnaire really quickly, and then Ian's going to talk about the print side of things and the design work that we can do on all of your print materials to make to tie in everything about your brand and just have like stuff to pass out that just like it's great. So I'm going to go through really quickly, because I feel like we're going a little longer than we should.
Don't rush.
What's that?
Don't rush, man. We're chilling. We're answering questions. We got this. I want to answer everybody's questions too. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So I'll be quick. So I'll share my screen again here. All good, Ian?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Ian will go through. We have a new marketing site that has a lot of nice resources on it. But I'm just going to go through, when you do go through the process to get a logo made, we send you this questionnaire really quickly. And there is actually a video of me kind of going through in depth the entire process of getting a logo done. That's under the resources tab here. But I just want to quickly go over it just to kind of go through, and if you haven't started thinking about stuff, maybe at this point you'll start thinking about it. So then when the time comes that you actually do it, you'll have more, kind of like marinating up there to hit the ground running with. So the questionnaire, here's my dopey face. I ask every day to have that changed, but so far no luck. You can watch these videos too. Those are also on the marketing site, but we're not here to do that. We're here to just look through this questionnaire. So
and just so you know, this is the questionnaire that once you order something like a business card and you want, or a brochure or whatever it is, and you want to have a logo made, this is what you're going to fill out. And so this is what our designers, CK and Levi, are going to receive, these answers that you type up. And that's it. Any images or anything that you send in, this isn't a full on, calling each other conversation. Like this is the main, this is going to funnel it down a lot. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah. And this is the place where, you don't have to rush through. It is pretty straightforward. It's not long, but again, the more that you can provide us, the better off we're going to be. The less back and forth there will be, the more likely it is that we hit the mark on the first or second attempt, because we do keep working with you until you're like, that's great, that's what I want. However, that can be time consuming, because if we're going through 7 or 8 revisions or completely new logos, that's just going to eat into time that you could be out there passing your cards out and establishing yourself in your area. So again, it is more time up front, but it'll save time in the long run, and it'll yield better results. I promise you that. So name is pretty straightforward. Whatever it is that you have registered officially, that's ideal, because we get a lot of people who think they want, but it isn't registered. Then they find out that they can't legally do it. Then we have to redesign everything again. So it is about saving your time as well as ours. So make sure you have it all set in stone, and then you can type that in there. Your email address. Oh, I'm sorry. The first one is just your name, and then this is where you would put your. So this kind of gets us squared away with the style, like the main style of what you're looking for. So like, maybe you want a more bold sans serif font, a little bit more modern kind of style, or a little bit more classic style with a serif font, which just means it has like the little like ligatures on the lettering and stuff like that. It just kind of gives us an initial direction to go in. And then the format is pretty straightforward. An emblem is kind of like a badge sort of thing. Word mark is, takes the name of your company is essentially the focal point of the logo. A letter form will take the letters of your logo and turn it into a nice little iconic logo mark there. Pictorial is pretty straightforward. Character is pretty straightforward. Abstract seems to be the one that gets the most hang up. Abstract, it quite literally means, it's not an actual image of something. It's supposed to kind of give the feel of something. So, like the Nike swoosh is an example of an abstract mark. We get a lot of people who click abstract and then they're like, I want a magnifying glass. That's a picture. So it's important to kind of, again, like help us understand what it is you're actually looking for. So those are the main styles that we give you to select from. It can be a hybrid, you know what I mean? It's not, none of this is 100% solidifying you into anything. Like I said, it's a back and forth and we keep working with you. This one is if you want a picture of something, what image would you like to have included? Do you want an owl? Do you want, if you're not sure, put a few things down. Even if you're using a word mark or a letter form, then you don't need to include something like that. But this one helps us a lot. We get a lot of people who click pictorial logo and then don't tell us what. So again, that guesswork is important to mitigate. Color scheme, again, you're not locked into anything, but it kind of just helps us like get a feel for generally what you're looking for. And this one is just kind of like an aesthetic test. You just kind of click the ones that you find aesthetically pleasing, and you may want to us to reference as what you're looking for as well, like a more in that style specifically. Here's where you should upload stuff. If you I think you can only do one for whatever reason. It's just something annoying with the Typeform thing that we do. You can zip up a bunch of files and put it into a zip folder and send that to us, or you can just email us more additional images if you'd like to. These help a ton too. You're limited with the things that you can click up above. This is anything that you want to send us. So it doesn't have to be a home inspector logo. It can be any kind of logo. And again, it helps us get a feel for what's kind of brewing in your head. And then if you can, elaborate a little bit as to why you like those. Pick your colors here. You can pick a combination of them. And you're not limited to that. So you can, in additional notes, you can put, if you want, like top or something like that, something a little more obscure. And then these are kind of just adjectives to help us, again, solidify the kind of presentation you're hoping to put out there in your logo. So if you are a little more, like bubbly, like Ian said, you can do playful and friendly and stuff like that. It just helps us understand the values that you're trying to like portray in your logo. So, and then there's anything else. And that's it, guys. It's pretty straightforward. And again, the more you put into this, the better off it's going to be. I promise you.
And it's something too where you can, if you're not totally sure of what you want, like these are ways that we're able to filter it down. Some people already know exactly what they want, so as they're going through, it just helps us. Every time that you give us something, then it's like clay. Like when we start off, we just have the clay. And then as you're continuing to add in, we get to shape that more and more and more. So the more you can shape it, the more we can take it and then manipulate it and turn it into something better. But if you're like, I don't really know this, tell us that, like explain, like I'm kind of in between this, I've been thinking about this, and you can write a paragraph in here and we read it, and we'll take that into consideration and be like, okay, well, with these two directions, like as you explained it seemed like you were more passionate about this one, so I spent a little more time on this. I did this other version in case you wanted to see that, and I create, and then we'll work with you in that sense. So even if you're still on the fence, you can still, like just give us as much information as you can so that we can see like you see. That's the whole objective. We're just trying to translate what you're giving us.
Yeah, and the reality is we kind of like a little uncertainty, but as long as you're giving us as much as you can, that is the key. You don't have to know exactly what you want in your logo. Like, the person who's definitive about what they want, then we're just kind of following instructions. It is a two-way street. We can maybe present something that you hadn't thought of before, but the more options there are, the more avenues there are, the more you're open to. It's just better, and we can work through a few different iterations of it. And it's being a dead horse at this point, but just try your best to write down as much as you can. There's no limit to, it could be a journal entry. You could be like, well, I don't know, maybe. All of it is great. As much as you give us is awesome. And the last thing I'll do, because there is a lot of I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty. So we make everything per order. So once you fill this out, we read it and then we start going. And based on how it works is from the logo side of things, we hand draw everything. So it isn't like a stock library of logos that we use and we just kind of plug your company name into. It's not like ordering off a menu. We make these things based off of what you're telling us. So again, that's the importance of this questionnaire. Even though it's not super painstakingly long, it's important to provide as much as you can, because we go through the process of, and I'll show you an example of one of the ones that was in the slideshow earlier that I did a long time ago that I like, where it's that searchlight one with the frog. And so, I took a little, before I got a digital way to sketch stuff out, a little red pencil and drew a little frog out there. And basically how it works is, we take this and then we, why isn't this working now? There we go.
Is it pulling up on your other screen or something?
Yeah, can you see this? But we kind of just we make a drawing and then we turn it into a fleshed out logo. So you kind of see.
I'm currently still seeing your logo screen.
Oh, really?
It's just me. I'm seeing the logo questionnaire.
Let me try it one more time.
Sorry, that might have
No,
been.
thank
I
you
was
for
like, you're
pointing that out, 'cause
talking
I was
like you're looking at a sketch.
I was only doing that for myself then. But can you see it now? Okay.
Yeah, I see it now.
It's a little, it's a little frog, and we kind of go through and we make it all custom made, and then eventually, it turns into the finalized logo. And so I just wanted to show how the process works, because it isn't like we sit around with 100 of owl logos that we can just use whenever we want to. Everything is totally custom made. So it's important to keep that in mind. And again, it kind of just drives some of the importance of being thorough on the questionnaire. And yeah, I'm going to pass it over to Ian to kind of to talk more. I've probably gone too long, but I appreciate the time. I'll stop sharing. And yeah, I mean, the last thing I'll say in regards to thinking about, your logo and where to begin and stuff like that, Ian's going to show the marketing website a little bit. And we have a portfolio of logos that we've made. We've done thousands I mean, Levi, the other designer, and me, that's what we do full time for you guys. So we've done a ton of them. And I think it might be useful to go through and look and see what we've done for other inspectors, to kind of show like how many different styles, we can make stuff for you in, the different approaches. Like, there's just a lot of variety that I think is important to maybe kind of get your wheels turning. And again, we're not telling you to copy anything, but it is nice to see what other inspectors are doing. And I think that's a good place to actually start, to kind of like get the thoughts brewing. So
yeah. I mean, on the same level, it's like looking at, like, I'm not a plumber, but if I saw like plumbing put together, I'm like, well, that looks like nice plumbing. But if you just gave me a bunch of bars and stuff, it's like, it's really helpful to see an example of like, okay, I like that and I like this, and now I can get a vibe. Because as you're thinking, just like the person that asked earlier, like, I don't have a business name and I'm still thinking about it, like, the thinking process of it shouldn't be considered like, I keep coming up with blanks. What you're doing is you're cutting things off. You're clearing room. The more that you're looking into it, you're clearing room, even if it's just subconsciously. Just like the watch was waiting for that guy. He just had to keep clearing room, putting in time, clearing room. And even if it wasn't the watch, maybe it could have been something else. Like, he just had to see it. So sometimes just seeing it is really helpful. I'm going to share my screen so that we can go kind of into the second part of this, which is talking about what we do. Can you see my screen over here in the marketing website? Okay, cool. Now I understand why you're asking, because it doesn't show. So this is basically the part that I'm going to be talking about is what we do, how you get this marketing, and kind of why InterNACHI is so cool with the process of how we go through this. Like, CK and I love our jobs because we get to constantly deal with, throughout the year, like hundreds, if not thousands. I mean, we have 7,000 members that are getting marketing services through us. But all of you guys are like, you're all individuals. You're all, you communicate differently. Like, and we get to have this like one-on-one experience with you where we're helping. You help us in order, because we love doing this. So you give us the opportunity to design and do this for a living. And then on the other hand, we get really excited because we send stuff out there to you and it gets printed out there in the world. And then you're using that and you're building a company, like, it feels really cool. And to be honest, feels really American. Like, I feel really cool being able to be like, we're creating this stuff that then people are going out there and fueling the economy. It's like, it's really cool what we're doing. So I always want to tie in the bigger theme of all of this stuff. When you're looking at the website, this is our new website that our team leader, Charisse, made. She's awesome. So you'll see a lot of this bloodhound inspection stuff. If you guys haven't seen any of that, that's basically what we created as like our general theme, like an InterNACHI themed company that we then can show you kind of mock-ups of all of the marketing through this lens, so you can kind of see what we're able to do, creating things from scratch and going all the way throughout. So you'll see a lot of this bloodhound stuff through there. I just wanted to mention that. When you first go on to marketing, shop.nachi.org, as you'll see on the top left here. This is the home page. This will explain how you get started. So you order your marketing materials. That's the first step. Then we'll email you asking for further information, like, do you have a logo? Hey, can you fill out this questionnaire? And then once that's all set up and we start the design work and start emailing you back and forth, all of this is done through email, just so you know. So make sure that you're, checking your spam folder and all that stuff once you get your order in. Then we start designing and we're all kicking it, and it starts to flow on our end. So yeah, that first step will just get you there. This homepage has some cool stuff. This shows Levi actually designing that Bloodhound one from scratch, just like we were showing you, which is pretty cool, man. That, you're getting an artist that has years and years, decades of experience, that they're drawing your logo from you from scratch, designing it for, if you just ordered business cards, like $100, you're getting all of these years of experience and a logo that you get to carry on and use for your branding. It's pretty freaking awesome. The second tab here are our design services. So this is kind of a general overview of what each one of these pieces of marketing does and all the stuff that we do offer you. So you can kind of read more about like why you would get a flyer, what you would need these for, vehicle magnets, that's a little obvious, but like custom home maintenance books, why you would want the custom versus the standard and things like that. All of that information is available here, but there's also our portfolio. So this is a good spot, especially for the person who doesn't know what name that they're going with too. Here's a bunch of different examples with a bunch of really good logos, and you can kind of start, funneling in. These are all the logos. This is maybe what, 10% of things that we've done, if even less. Just a really cool array of being able to see all the amazing things that we do. And what's cool is that it really starts here. The first people that you're going to get in contact with, unless you already have a logo, then you get sent straight to me. But the first people on the chain is going to be CK sitting here waiting with a notepad, waiting to draw you something, or Levi. And they're going to create this for you, work with you so that you really love this logo, so that this thing really speaks to you. And then they pass it on to me, and I start getting to build your print marketing materials. So you'll see a lot of the print marketing materials underneath, well, the design services. Here's just, again, some of the stuff that we've done. So this is we're taking those logos that you saw on the other page, and now we're turning that here into, a beautiful business card. How are we going to incorporate that logo and that identity into a brand? How are we going to translate that? Okay, let's take some of these little assets and speckle them in here. As we're building it out, your marketing, it's so important that you have that solid logo so that we can give you something that, speaks to it, like adding these clouds in here. I mean, this vibe of this business card is so different than the vibe of this other business card, simply by the logo and how that was represented. And so there's a bunch of really cool marketing that you'll see in here. On the same level, I'm designing all this stuff in the same right, where I just get all of the information that you filled out in a separate questionnaire. That questionnaire is a little more limited, so I don't need to really go through it, because it's mainly like, what services do you offer? I get most of my vibe through the logo that gets sent over, and I build it past that. But we have door hangers, we have business cards, we have rack cards, we have flyers, postcards of varying sizes. You can do EDDM postcards that you design through us. Some people even do scratch off postcards, where we don't have the scratch off feature, but you order, off Amazon, a scratch off 1-inch sticker, and, tell us what size the sticker is. I'll make the little circle slightly smaller than that size, and you can fill it in with $75 off or whatever. And we'll add in like a little spot underneath that says, with an asterisk, that's like, it has to be open at the time of or scratched off during the time of inspection. There's a lot of really cool ways that you can use this. The print marketing stuff, this is what I do, so I'm probably going to talk about it a lot. It's really cool because you get guys like this guy who went and got professional photography done, and I was able to then say, okay, cool, like, this is sweet. I'm going to cut you out of this and place you on here, put this backdrop on you, you know, so now like it's completely unique. We have stock imagery that we can use. We have an Adobe stock account that will actually allow you guys to pick your own imagery if you don't have professional photos of yourself. But if you do, you can really customize this stuff and really give your own feel that allows you to, you know, personalize it to the next level. And you can also say like, he wanted to have a discount on there. Where are you at, Mr. Castle? He wanted to have a discount on there, $50 off for military veterans with an ID or proof of service. And we actually have an editor-in-chief that works for InterNACHI that goes through all of our stuff. She is an absolute fantastic, wonderful woman that is so in depth. She's got I call her my eagle eye. She's able to look through all of your stuff. If you guys just have like blurbs, like the front over here, we have a lot of blurbs that we'll just automatically put on your marketing because, you know, there's a lot of pages to fill. So we'll add that in there and then send it to you as like a template. But if you want to manipulate any of that, or if you're like, I actually wanted to have a whole spiel, I just wrote this thing up on Word, we will proofread it for you. And then she'll go through and rewrite it. And you know, if that's not your forte, that's what she's here for. And then I'm able to then use her as a resource and use it to manipulate and make sure that it's addressed correctly so that, you know, all of your stuff is valid, not just send out there and then you come back and you're like, oh man, sorry for printing out that $1,000 worth of stuff, but yeah, this thing was actually spelled mold, has MODL and not, you know, like we'll make sure that it's just a really cool resource to be able to have that. So
Yeah,
that's mainly.
can I interrupt for a second? I was just going to reiterate, you know, like if you are able to get a photo of yourself on the job or just like a nice headshot of yourself, you have to remember that you know, your product, that you're selling is you being trusted to go into a stranger's house. So if you have a way to show some like a personable touch and put your face on there, or you working, or anything like that, is again, it's a way to where, all right, well, you're not using stock imagery that potentially other people are using, and it's more you. So I think that was worth at least reiterating a second time. I know you brought it up already, but if you're able to get something like that, like this is great, because then you have like your nice unique logo and then your own photography, and that just gives you such a leg up, and it helps people feel comfortable with making that transaction to hire you to do
that second part. Yeah, it's the part after your logo, to where now you have that done, and then you can take that same mindset and put it into your print marketing materials. Because I mean, in theory, your print marketing materials, those are things that are going to be left behind. These are things that are going to be mailed to people. These are things that are, you know, going to be handed out by a real estate agent to your person. So this, in theory, your print marketing is you. It communicates who you are without you being there. Yeah. So how do you address that without you being there? Is it now you're looking at, okay, is it all just the same stock imagery? Is it, you know, and now like adding little things like this, like, I mean, who's not going to see this and be like, okay, now I know this is Dan, this is his face, this is the person. It makes it so personal, and it's another barrier to entry. It's a now they feel connected with this person. Now they you know, like the vibe. They themselves might be a veteran. It's just selling to the specific, you know, to selling. Not really selling, breaking barriers. You're getting closer, you're getting closer. Now they're not thinking about anybody else. Now they're already looking through your marketing, they're already on your website, and they never even had to Google search a home inspector because you sent this postcard. It felt so personal. Spring is here. He also did one for fall. We put a bunch of like Halloween themed stuff on it. And he does it throughout the year, and he always hits us up. Now he's just reordering them, so he gets 10% off every time. Like it's just it's a killer idea that you can really take stuff.
And my guess is this guy does very well for himself.
That's for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you're not, most of the time you're not going to be there to show your excellent personality. Like you just aren't. I mean, back when we would have in-person conferences, you know, like Ian, you know how it goes. There's the most delightful people that come up to you and shake your hand, and there's a magnetism to them. I like talking to these people, And then they'll be like, here's my business card. What do you think? And I'm like, well, you're lucky that I got to meet you in person, because I wouldn't, I don't say this, but that's just how strong it is to have, stuff that can kind of showcase who you are without you being there, because you can't be everywhere. You can't always be at the realtor's office talking to them face to face. You just, you have to leverage any opportunity you can to kind of showcase that sort of personality, and doing stuff like that is such a great way to do it. And again, like the conference example is to me, it's such an easy way for me to look at it, because all these guys have similar blue shirts that all look the same, that have the same kind of imagery on it, and they all kind of blend in with each other. So you don't have to do a whole lot in order to separate yourself a whole lot. So what Ian's saying is spot on, and don't overlook it. Like if you can, like phones, we encourage you to do a professional photo if you can, but our phones are nice enough to take like a really nice photo. Like photos and testimonials and stuff like that are huge. So put anything like that you can on your print marketing, because again, you're not there to always talk to these people and show how nice of a person, and how, like be able to talk about how proficient you are in home inspections or anything like that. It's just what's on the card. So if the card is no good, it's going to be harder for you.
Yeah. And I even think that Dan Brower guy, he put out like a Craigslist feeler and like paid somebody, like a high school student, like $100 that had a nice camera to go and take those pictures of him. And then he went into like Walmart to the photo section and just took, in front of a screen behind him, it was just a high res image. But, and that's also another example of like why you don't have to have your name be, how you can get both ends, where it doesn't have to be Joe Buck. This is Castle Home Inspection, but it's all about Dan Brower. This is, it's all about him, but it's still Castle Home Inspection LLC. But you tie the two. And if now he builds his company up, he can immediately just sell that. You don't have to use these same images. You can just change it. And now that Castle Home Inspection can be picked up from where he left it. So to answer the comment again about why you don't have to put your name in it, this is a way that you can, be able to still have that personal identity through your print marketing without having to have all of that addressed in your logo. A lot of people really overthink the logo as needing to be the all-encompassing of their entire brand. And inside of that presentation that you had, you talked about the difference between the logo and the brand, how the brand is a layer of so many other things, how the apple is just the apple with it out. But when you think Apple, you think of so many other things that come up. And that's, you even think of Steve Jobs, even though you don't think, he's not even here anymore. You still have this idea that it was founded upon. And so, I just wanted to
nice packaging, and it's everything else. And so I remember working with this guy, and he was great to work with. He was very thorough, and that doesn't mean that he knew exactly what he wanted to do, but we went through a lot of revisions with his logo, and just working with someone who really all the examples that I didn't even know about that you're talking about really showcases how much he cares about the marketing side of his business. And we're talking about this guy and his brand, and we don't know anything about him, but we're just working with him and being in contact with him briefly. We know that he cares about his marketing. We know he cares about his business, and that is such an important leg up on a lot of. We work with a lot of inspectors, and a lot of them. It feels like more of an afterthought, and that's not meant to be a dig on anybody. That's just the reality that I've perceived with working with so many home inspectors over the years, and that's why I really just think that like a little extra effort is going to do so much for your company. So if nothing else, just try your hardest to get a little creative with it. And we say that, and all we're saying is this guy went to Walmart and got a nice headshot and hired a photographer. Those really aren't rocket science ideas. That's just the extra effort that you put in. That's definitely going to make you more desirable as a hire than somebody who hands you a flimsy business card that hardly has a logo on it, and that's all we're trying to say today.
Yeah,
So
because it's not about his creativity. It's like, yeah, this man thought outside of the box, but he's really harping on the same thing of changing the way that you're looking at it. He's just simply thinking from the client perspective. He's thinking that a high-res photo of himself or a nice headshot feels different. Why does every real estate agent get a headshot? If a real estate agent just had a selfie of them, back against the wall, you would immediately say, yeah, no, thank you. Like, I'm not trusting that person, like it just wouldn't, it would give you a vibe, even though it has nothing to do with the person, like the person just wanted to take a selfie and did that. It's a photo. Why does the photo matter? But it's like, it's the way that it's translated to the client. This example was actually, this was the first guy that ever came to me for a scratch off. And he was like, yeah, I want to do a scratch off, 30, 40 or $50. I designed this for him so he can actually write within that circle. He gets to write, 30, 40 or 50. He ordered a scratch off sticker that was bigger than this. And so he writes them all out, sticks that on top of it, and then mails it out or hands it out to people. And then they have to call him, bring him in, ask for the home inspection. When he gets there, then they scratch it off. But think about what the brilliance of that is. The brilliance of that is they got something that they now can't scratch off, and they want to. The tactileness of that, of like pushing the red button. But he's saying, in order for you to be able to scratch this off, I need to be your home inspector. You need to show up, and you're also going to get money off for this. It's going to be a win for you. It's going to be a win for me because I'm showing up. It's just that slight little thought. Now the client is going, all right, well, if I'm going to have a home inspection, I'm definitely going to call this guy because I'm going to get a discount and I get to finally scratch this freaking thing off. And so he shows up, you go through the inspection, you scratch it off, boom, I got $50 off. Yay. And it's a total win. It's just that slight thinking outside the box. It's thinking just from the client's perspective that is super helpful.
Yeah. And it's packaged in a really nice, and again, like, this isn't meant to be a sales pitch, but the quality of the cards are really nice. So he's handing you something that, is a really high quality, and it's a call to action to actually call this guy and get him to hire him for your home inspection. I actually didn't even know that this was a thing that happened, and this is such a great idea. And it's just another example of, like,
it wasn't even something that we offered. We never told people about, but you are able to customize these things however you want. And that's why I'm showing this, because this is thinking outside the box. Like, if you just want the standard brochures and stuff, they're great. And yeah, absolutely. Like, I design, probably 20 out of 21 brochures that I design. A lot of people just like the typical information thrown on there, and then you get one guy that wants to rewrite and customize and add in his own photos, and I'm like, sweet. And I like adding that in, because every time that it's a new opportunity for me to play around with different things. Like, I'll show you an example here on this was one guy that had a brochure, but he wanted all of his own, imagery on here. He had these two photos that he had taken. He had this sweet photo of him on top of this house. So I cut him off, cut him out of this and threw it on and made it like a hero image, right on the front of his brochure. And this is, what I'm working with. We're dealing with all these different assets on their own. Every little thing can be taken and moved and erased if you don't need any of these spots. We're building this all from scratch. But, this guy had a great example of him being like, yeah, I'm veteran owned, I'm pushing the buyback guarantee. Let's go and talk about how I have over 20 years experience in electrical and mechanical systems, and it has these cool little images that keep moving your eye, like, the whole idea about print marketing is immediately when you look at the front cover here, boom, logo. You're going straight to the logo, and then it's leading you down. He's looking down. It's bouncing you right to his contact information, backside, lots of colors, everything. It's just eye candy. There's a flow. It's a lot of information. We're talking 12 different seals showing his qualifications. We have 6 different bullets about all the things that he's offering. We have his phone number, his license number, his name, his URL, the service area that he covers, a personal image of himself, 2 logos, all, and it's all concise though. It doesn't feel like it's breathing too much. It doesn't feel like you don't want to read. Like this is a lot of words to get a random person to read. You're trying to get them to read pages of things. How do you get them to do that? So, I'm thinking about that on my end of like, okay, how can I create this flow to where, even as it ends, it's still coming right back to you. Call this number or visit this number in order to, get your inspection. And we build things top to bottom. Like this guy I'm currently working on this, hasn't even been approved yet, but this guy ordered a postcard, a business card, and a business card magnet. So I'm dealing with 3 different things and 3 completely different styles. One's going to be a magnet that he's going to slap on something, so it's a 2.5 by 3 inch face. The other one's a business card. I have that same size on both ends, but he's going to be handing this out or leaving it somewhere. And then a postcard is going to be mailed. So I'm dealing with the template on the back of, okay, this black part is where we can't put anything for the mailing system. So how am I going to fit all that stuff in here? But if you had to show up, like let's say his brand canon, I decided to put this backdrop on there. His logo was normally just this, but I thought, okay, let's keep a brand identity here throughout all 3 of these. So each one has that vibe. His business card feels the same way, a little hint of the mop in the background. He wanted it to be professional and clean. He wanted it to be, least amount of information, but easy to read. All things that he told me. The business card magnet follows the same vibe. That's what he's going to be slapping on there. I'm paying attention to how big the font's going to be. What's the hierarchy of each of the things that are going to be read? Where do I want them to look first? Where do I want them to end looking? So, we're really caring about these things that we're doing for you. We're building all these things from scratch. And that's what's so important. To go on the website and finish this up so that we can answer your questions in this last 30 minutes. Obviously, testimonials speak for themselves. These are just a bunch of people that give us kind words. So we like that because it makes us feel good. And the resources, you guys can browse through here and see all the stuff, but this kind of relates to almost more marketing side of the resources that aren't already brandished all over the website themselves. So you can see really cool articles. There's really cool printouts, great stuff about the marketing. Like this is that video that CK was referencing earlier. There's CK's beautiful face again. I always want to point that out because he loves seeing his face pointed out things. Thank you. And then things that we've created for downloads, like we created this adorable little monster free zone so that as a personal touch you can just download this out and then you can be giving that to the kids at a house, get that personal touch and be like, yeah, don't worry, I inspected your home and there's no monsters in your home. Like just cute little things that are thinking outside the box. The podcast, everything's on there. This is the way to contact us. These are all of our beautiful faces. And how you can shoot us an email. Obviously that information is going to be on there. And then just quickly, for those who haven't made any orders through us before, obviously there's a big order now button that's going to bring you straight to the custom marketing spot of Inspector. If you just are already on Inspector Outlet's homepage and you just click marketing and custom marketing, that'll bring you here. So these are all the custom marketing materials that we offer. There's different package sizes for each of them. If you want 500 business cards compared to 1,000, if you're a 2-person team and so you want to take the 1,000 business cards and split them for like 15 or 20 bucks into 500 and 500, like we'll customize all that stuff for you. It's not like you're ordering this through a print shop and then we don't ever deal with you again. But what you'll do is you'll just go through, like for the person who hasn't created a business name yet, if they just want to get something going for cheap, I think 1,000 business cards, like 130 bucks for 1,000 business cards. So you can make this order and, then the process will email, the order will go through. Our marketing manager will email you, ask you if you want a logo questionnaire. You'll fill out that logo questionnaire. It'll get dumped on CK's desk. He'll work with you via email to build out that logo. Then after you approve it, it gets dropped to me. I'll build your business card out and then I'll send that to you. And then you're walking out the door and you're dealing with, a marketing director. You're dealing with a logo designer that's been doing it for years. You are dealing with myself designing all this stuff, and you're dealing with an editor-in-chief for $130. And you're walking out the door with a logo that you can then build a website with. You can then slap it on a t-shirt or a hat. You can do any of that stuff for 130 bucks. There's killer deals like that. The brochure and business card package is like 400 bucks for 1,000 each, like we're only charging you for the printing and shipping because we're a part of the services. Like we're having our salary paid by all the membership fees. We're here for you. Like we're not sitting here trying to upsell you on stuff, trying to make sure that you're ordering more and more stuff. Like we don't care what the package size is. You can order every single thing on our site or order 2 things on our site and we treat you just the same. So yeah, I don't know what else there is for us to talk about. Here's all of our beautiful faces. And
can you bring up the MMS? Is that still up on your thing? The brochure you made for the guy on the roof?
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to point out something that kind of like that I.
You want to look at the logo?
Yeah, regarding the logo. Well, in relation to how it ties into the marketing as well, because it's something that I get a lot. A lot of people want to include contact information like within the logo, and I just wanted to use this as an example of why you definitely want to keep your logo and the mock one that you showed as well for the same reason, why you want to keep your logo separate from your contact information, because you never know how small your logo is going to be. So you don't want to have like 5 lines of text on a logo and then like have to search for the contact information. And you want to be able to place this on your brochure, on your business cards, on a mug, whatever it is. And then you want to have your contact info and any other important information on your, like in very prominent places on your brochure. So like right here on the front, on your website, usually you want to have it up at the top, just very easy places to find. And we help you with the design aspect from that point. I know when you're looking at this, it's a lot of information, but the reality is it's a brochure. So you open it up and stuff. So just that front page has everything that you would need to use, and you don't have to cram in additional information into your logo. So just keep that in mind if you are looking to get a new logo made, that you typically want to have it be a standalone thing that you can take and place anywhere that you see fit. So showing an example of like a finished product, I felt like it was a good place to say that, because it is something that I personally deal with a lot, where people are requesting that. And so I think it's an important thing to at least make known. So that's all I had.
Sweet. I guess we'll we got like 23 minutes left, so we'll stop sharing and then we can answer any questions or anything that have popped up. Sorry.
And keep in mind we have the marketing virtual booth right after this. So if we don't get to your question, we'll take them all down, and then you can jump into that as well. And it is 1 hour. I don't know whatever sessions are coming up after that, but I'll be around to help as well. And again, you can always email us separately, and we can help you however way is easy for you whenever the time comes. So we'll do our best to get through everything, but there is a lot of time that we have still. So just wanted to remind people that.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We have like 3 questions, and then everything else, I think it was answered. So one of them says, are there any words you suggest staying away from in a name, like for your company?
I have a few. Again, this is not a dig on anyone who's gone this route, but there are a lot of, I've encountered a lot of things where they're saying like a value that they have in the company name. So something like honest home inspections, things like that. I think that words like that are kind of problematic, because, all right, you would hope that the person you're hiring is honest. Like it's almost like too over the top, where it's like, I'm honest. Like I'm almost like, are you? If you have to tell me, are you? There's stuff like that. And I think that kind of value can be conveyed through, like different design elements, like colors and font choices and stuff like that. I talked about the acronyms already. If you can make it work, that's great. But I do think that they're just a little bit more difficult to remember, because they're kind of arbitrary. So again, you want to be able to just say it to somebody and they remember it as long as they possibly can. And it, the domino effect of that, I think is important. So other than that, and the honest thing, it's not bad. I'm not saying that it's a bad way to go, but I just think that you can do something that helps you stand out a little bit more than just saying like, I have integrity, like integrity home inspections. I've dealt with a lot, and that's great. But in my opinion, I think that you can be a little bit more creative with it, and when because again, there's really nothing that you can associate visually with something like. There's not direct correlation. There's ways that you can kind of portray integrity, but again, that's something that we can handle with a different company name that may be more unique through the use of different design elements.
Yeah,
So
I agree. And there's a spot too where a lot of people I feel like will come up with something like, let's say you wanted to go with honest home inspections, but then you see honest home inspections is taken. So a lot of people will be like, okay, I'll do honest property inspections or honest home and property or residential inspections. And that is also problematic because then now you're blurring the whole market there where, if somebody just assumes, yeah, honest home inspections or something, and they just pop that in, they're going to get somebody else's account, especially if you're just adding like on the URL, just like an LLC, where a lot of people won't go for the .com. They'll try to do .net because they are able to get it, but people will naturally just put it in and put .com, and then now it's pulling up somebody else's, and then yet again, there's another barrier to entry. But I mean, you can have a lot of fun with like, I'm just going to share my screen real quick so that you can see what this guy did. This guy had an emoji that he wanted us to remake. Can you see this on my screen? Yeah, but it's here's Johnny inspection services, which immediately you're like, that can be super problematic. Like this, it's like, it's kind of creepy, like here's Johnny coming into your house. He's using the roof line. He's using a magnifying glass. He's doing this whole thing. But we created this forum and he had already we just actually updated a logo that he was already using. So this was an update for it, but he was like, dude, I go out there and people think this is hilarious. Like people are, I get that comedic factor. He himself was really fun and funny to work with. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like he's using something that is kind of that you would think would be off limits, but is using it in a fun and appropriate way that's, being able to show his brand identity. And so, yeah, that's all I would say is that there's options.
Yeah, and I think that kind of reinforces the fact that like being unique, even if it could be, because I worked on that and initially I was like, oh no, this is, and like the guy was great to work with, but my initial thought was, oh, well, that's a reference to a murderous psychopath,
Going into your home.
But it is reinforced. It's unique. So like, you're not going to see something else out there like that. It may turn some people off, but to me, and like what Ian's saying is, if it's working for you and just being that unique has so much advantage to it. Whereas I'm just going to keep saying honest inspections that I've seen a whole bunch of times, and there's really no brand identity for that. I mean, you can make something that's nice, but it's harder to establish yourself with a unique brand if you're using an overused word that kind of like, it's kind of arbitrary. You kind of assume that every inspector you hire should be honest. It's like honest mechanic. I'm like, maybe someone. It's really not meant to be disrespectful. I just think that there are ways that you can go outside the box, and one that we even think is like, it could be an issue. It actually works for the guy, and that's that. I think that's the kind of crux of what we're trying to get at here, is that being unique is the best thing that you can probably do, so long as you're not being inappropriate, I guess. So that was a good example to bring up. Yeah, I would say that not much else is off limits. Follow the guidelines that I said earlier. Keep it simple. Don't have it be tough to spell. Don't throw a Z in there in place of an S if you can help it. Like stuff like, think about it as if, you were the consumer and you had to share it with somebody else, and be unique, and you should be good.
Thank you, guys. Another question says, what about using QR codes on marketing materials?
Yeah, I'll take this one because I do this all day long. I have a QR code generator, so you don't have to send me one. A lot of people think that they need to do that, but I can actually create one from whatever your website is, or some people actually like to link it to specific spots on their website. I had one guy that just wanted to link it to like, I forgot some other subsidiary thing that was like some deal thing that he had, or his Facebook page. No matter where it is, it's still helpful. I totally think it's a great idea. When QR codes first came out, it was like everybody was like, I don't even know what, like you had to download an app in order to even use it, and then you had to use the app on your phone, so nobody was using it. But now it's on everything. You see it all over the place, and all you need is a phone, and everybody's got one, and you just pull open your camera and you can go straight to it. So I think it's also super helpful. Like even in that Here's Johnny example, like his website URL, I'm reading it, is www.here'sjohnnyinspectionservicesllc.com. And that's a lot of letters. That's like 25 letters right there. So, and he didn't have a QR code that he wanted to throw on this, but if he was like, yeah, can I throw that on there? That immediately allows somebody that has his business card to just link that right up. Or if it's for a special promotion, that's something that's advertised on their website, or, you know, a certain link on social media that they'd like to. I definitely recommend. I'd say that QR codes are super helpful, and can get you to something like that. If you're trying to just throw a bunch of information on top of your, like on something as small as a business card, if you're like, I want a full list of services and I want all of these, you know, education seals and my logo and all this, like that's at some point, then you get to a point of diminishing returns. So adding a QR code is going to be, you know, too hectic. But if it's something simple, or if you're throwing it on a brochure or something like that, just a link to your website, I highly recommend. You can even link them. Some people have like mail tos, and they'll send me a link, so it actually will pop up like their email address. And, you know, so QR codes, I'm down for.
Yeah, agreed. And you can share digitally from that, so you don't have to hand someone a card. You know, your client who, you know, you've dealt with last year is able to share the information with a potential new client without you even being there. So I agree. I think it's a, you know, if it's a strong thing to include that doesn't cost you anything extra, and it can really like help with your reach. So I agree.
Thank you. This one says, are the shipping charges to Canada extra?
Yes.
Yeah, the
assume so, yeah.
shipping, yeah, the shipping's gonna change for wherever you are. Because it comes out of, it's either Denver or Idaho, I believe, is where the two spots that they actually have the manufacturers that are printing it all out. And depending on where you are, they'll ship it up from that spot. But a lot of times they'll just send it straight to our warehouse, and then we send it out from there. So yeah, it definitely matters where you are. The printing costs will show up when you go through the order process. But yeah, I mean, for some of the stuff, if you're dealing with business cards, like you're also dealing with something that's like that small of a package. So you're not dealing with like huge printing costs. You're not, you know, shipping a fridge by any means. It's just paper and ink. So it can get heavy if you're getting like a huge, you know, custom order books or something. Then that's like, you know, a lot more weight to it that you're dealing with. But yeah, it definitely depends. It's not just a flat rate.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. The last one says, how has COVID and lack of people in offices changed marketing strategies? I don't know if this is referring to us particularly, but Scott, if you are still here, let us know if it's just like our system or.
So like how you can tackle your marketing, just because, you know, of like less contact in
Yeah,
person.
I don't know if it's that, or it means like if we have changed anything to serve our members.
Yeah,
Well, I don't.
we haven't changed anything. I do think that, so kind of piggybacking off the QR thing, I would do anything that you can to expand your digital marketing. Make sure, you know, you have like, if you use like Google business stuff or Facebook for like a little business page on Facebook, you know, make sure that those are updated. Make sure you know what times people can reach you at. And I would say be more active online. Like, do your best to, you know, establish some semblance of a social media presence, because most of us are at home, but a lot of us, you know, are on the internet constantly. So if you are a little lacking in that department, I definitely would recommend doing whatever you can to help share you and your business online on that front.
Yeah.
I don't really know the dynamic with like realtors and stuff like that right now. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that at the moment, but yeah, go ahead, Ian. But I would definitely say, at the very least, if you don't have a Facebook or something like that, you should just update it and make sure your hours and everything else, like the best way to be contacted is all like very readily available online.
Yeah, and piggybacking off that too, like I've had a lot of people since, it's a much different zone when you're doing print marketing to have something where you're like, yeah, like this thing really depends on face-to-face contact. Like a lot of these business cards, obviously you can leave them in places, but a business card is most effective when you hand it to somebody, because then they know you, now they know the business, two relations, personal, directly to you, you're having it in contact. You, every time you look at it, you think of that interaction you had with this person. And obviously that's off the table and in so many areas. So marketing wise, in terms of print materials, I've had a lot of people switch to a lot of postcards, a lot of delivery stuff, a lot of things, like a lot of door hangers too, and leave behinds, things like we even have flyers also work, or rack cards are also super effective, but you can design things that have all the messaging and stuff that you need. I had a lot of rack cards come in that had like, the information they needed after they left, to be like, hey, yeah, I inspected your home and everything. Here's what I inspected. Please go through and check off this list, make sure that this all looks good and that it was all checked. And people are using those as leave behinds when they're not there. And a lot of door hangers too. A lot of people use door hangers, especially with you can get a rip off the bottom. It's just the size of a postcard, essentially. It's like 2 inches on the bottom of it that rips off, that has like a business card on there. But they'll even put like, hey, thank you so much for letting me inspect your home. And they'll leave that on the door because there's no contact that you're having. So print marketing, it's just like that slight little shift of you're thinking, okay, like, what my main marketing right now is going to be like a bunch of brochures that I'm going to bring to this conference, or I'm going to bring to this realtor, or I'm going to get these custom books, to hand out to each one of these people. Like, a lot of people think more like, okay, what are leave behinds? What are things that I can still affect and still have a lingering effect afterwards without having my personal contact? Print marketing becomes really important in that, because now you're trying to get your brand. And like I said earlier, you're trying to communicate yourself without yourself being there. So then it's now, okay, how do I address the things that I would rather do in person through a sheet? How do we do that? And so, yeah, you just think slightly outside the box. I think that's definitely what I've seen more, is a switch to more leave behind, door hanger kind of stuff recently.
Yeah. And even though things are like a lot different and you don't have the same kind of like tangible experience that you normally would, how you normally would market, what Ian's saying is perfect. Like you shouldn't be discouraged, because a lot of things have taken a hit over, like this past year. The housing market really hasn't, and there's a really high demand for inspections right now. So you still want to make sure that you're available to do that. So anything that you can do to keep yourself in the eye of real estate agents and home buyers is great. You shouldn't consider this a time to kind of like hibernate and like work on some stuff. You should still be doing everything that you can to do that. So yeah, like leave behinds are excellent, and between that and just making sure like if you're constantly updating stuff online, you should be visible to your audience. And yeah, I mean that would be, just to put a cherry on it, that'd be my advice, is to stay active, if not be more active than you ever have. It's just different. So find your points of leverage, and give as much as you can. And I think that you shouldn't really be affected too hard, as long as you're keeping up with it. I think the people who kind of aren't are the people that are struggling. So yeah, I mean, yeah, don't let it be a discouraging time. It's difficult, but it's still, you can still maintain your livelihood, if not improve on it, because the housing market has been really good. So and with the summer coming up, even better. So
yeah, and even harping on the digital side of it, like how many people are using technology more than ever right now?
Yep.
How many people are just browsing through Facebook more than they were before because they were outside doing something different? Like, there's opportunities there that you have to think of. And even post-COVID and vaccinations, and hopefully when this is behind us, It's still going to be a different kind of world then, but it's just a different problem to solve. Marketing is just solving problems. That's all we do. And so you just have to think about what problem you're trying to solve, and then brainstorm ways to do it, and doing things like being active on social media, paying for ads on there to be spread about your home inspection just to get your name out there during a certain season, pushing 11th month warranty or builder's warranty inspections during a certain time, or with postcards after you inspect somebody's house, annual home maintenance inspections. Like, you can customize even just with these specific services that you're pushing out there to people, so that people that aren't even thinking about home inspections are having this random thing pop up and they're like, oh crap, yeah, I remember I need a home inspection, or and now they're thinking about that, and
And it just helps with your SEO, which is basically when you Google home inspections I live in New York, home inspections in New York, how far down the list are you going to be? And so it's not just like check out my Facebook. It helps with that. And again, like Ian and I have said, wherever generationally, wherever you're at, that's just the reality of how people are finding people to hire. So you just have to be very conscious of that and be willing to adapt. If that hasn't been how you've been doing your business, you really got to maybe rethink your strategy, and you definitely don't want to fall behind on that, because like Ian said, more and more, and it's going to keep going that way, that's how we do it. And so, just it doesn't take a whole lot. If you're not familiar with that sort of stuff, obviously there's a learning curve just like anything else, but it doesn't require a whole lot to get yourself established online and to post something once in a while. And all that does is just help you with keeping up in those search engine rankings. So that's pretty vital as well. The print marketing is all awesome, but you want to work that in conjunction with a digital marketing presence. And we're not sitting here saying that any of this is easy. It is hard, and that's just the reality of being an entrepreneur. And the people that can stay up with it are the people that are killing it. So we encourage you to stay up on all that stuff, and if we can help in terms of like visually updating anything or anything else that can improve like that presence when you're not able to talk to people, that's why we're here as well. And we, it's not like an official service, but we do like Facebook banners for people after we've made logos and all that stuff, like Ian said before. So we can help you get set up. We can send you the appropriate dimensions of the images. So if it really is a lot for you, we can help ease a lot of that stress if you're trying to get online and it's just a little bit of a steeper learning curve for you. So don't hesitate to ask us questions or ask for help, because that's why we're here. So it's a good question.
Thank you so much, guys. For everyone in the chat, Miranda has posted the link to their booth, to the marketing booth, if you have any other questions. I'm going to go ahead and do the raffle right now so we can just go and see those vendors and our departments on the vendor hall. So thank you so much, guys. I don't know if you're checking the chat, but people are like just very happy with your presentation. So yeah, awesome work.